I didn't plan to leave the party that night. I didn't even plan to look for her. But when I stepped out onto that balcony and saw Willa leaning into another man's chest, laughing like she'd forgotten I even existed, something in me just switched off. No anger, no shouting, just this cold, numb feeling crawling up my spine. She didn't notice me at first. They were too close, whispering. I remember the guy's hand sliding along her arm, slow and deliberate, like he was claiming her piece by piece. My body wanted to do 1,000 things, run, fight, scream. But I just stood there, watching. The music from inside felt muffled, like the world was holding its breath with me. Then she looked up and saw me. For half a second, her smile faltered, but she didn't step away from him, not a single inch, and that's when I realized I couldn't say a word. If I opened my mouth, I'd fall apart in front of both of them. So I just turned and walked out. I didn't wait for her. I didn't answer when she called my name as I left. I walked past strangers, past the sound of glasses clinking, past the entire night we were supposed to share, and hailed the first cab I could find. When I got home, I sat on the living room floor with the lights off. I didn't drink. I didn't even move. I just sat there, my mind replaying every moment of the last 6 years with her, wondering if I'd been blind the entire time. Hours passed like minutes. By the time she came through the door, I'd already gone to bed and pretended to sleep. I heard her take off her heels, set down her bag, and just stand there in the dark like she was waiting for something. Maybe for me to explode. Maybe for me to forgive her before she even asked. But I stayed silent, and this morning I woke up to the sound of her crying in the kitchen. Not soft crying, this was heavy, shaking, like the kind of sobbing that tears your throat raw. I haven't asked her why. I don't even know if I want to. Because if she tells me the truth, I'm not sure I'll survive hearing it. I didn't get out of bed right away. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to her sobs bleed through the walls like water seeping through cracks. They weren't normal cries. They weren't the kind of tears that come with regret or apology. These were desperate, messy sounds, like someone whose world had just collapsed. I could hear her trying to catch her breath between sobs, the clinking of a mug against the counter. Maybe her hands trembling so hard she couldn't hold it still. For a moment, I thought about going to her, about asking what the hell was going on, about demanding the truth. But I didn't. Instead, I stayed perfectly still, trying to convince myself I didn't care. But I did. God, I did. Every second she cried, I felt something inside me unraveling. And it wasn't just anger, it was confusion, fear, and this creeping sense that I didn't know my own wife anymore. After what felt like an eternity, the house went silent. I got up, walked to the kitchen, and found her sitting at the table with her face buried in her hands. She didn't even hear me come in. Her hair was messy. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, and when she finally looked up at me, her eyes were swollen and bloodshot. I wanted to yell. I wanted to ask, "Who was he? Why were you with him?" But the words stuck in my throat. She whispered, almost too quietly to hear, "Harris, I need to tell you something." My pulse spiked. It wasn't what she said, it was the way she said it, like she was about to confess to something much worse than what I'd seen on that balcony. She tried to reach for my hand, but I stepped back. I wasn't ready, not for her excuses, not for her apologies. And then she said it. "You don't understand. Last night, something happened. Something I can't undo." Her voice cracked on the last word, and a chill shot through me. She wasn't talking like a woman caught flirting. She was talking like someone who'd seen something terrifying, something dangerous. That's when I noticed the bruises on her wrist. Faint, but there. My stomach twisted into knots. I stood there, staring at those faint bruises on her wrist, like they were the key to unlocking some secret world I wasn't meant to see. My throat went dry. I wanted to ask 100 questions, but all that came out was, "Who was he?" It sounded weak, almost pathetic. Willa didn't answer at first. She looked at me with this strange mix of fear and exhaustion, like a soldier who'd just come back from a war and didn't know how to talk about it. Finally, she said, "It's not what you think." That phrase, God, I hate that phrase. It's like a code women use when they know they're about to destroy you. I wanted to scream, "What do you mean it's not what I think? I saw you leaning into some guy like you'd forgotten my name." But something in her voice stopped me. It wasn't defensive. It wasn't even guilty. It was scared. She kept glancing at the window, like she thought someone might be watching us. Then she lowered her voice and said, "He's not who he says he is. That man at the party, he's not just some random guy." My mind tried to wrap itself around her words, but they sounded insane. I laughed bitterly, because what else could I do? What the hell are you talking about, Willa? Are you trying to spin this into some spy movie so I'll forget you were all over him? She shook her head, her tears dripping onto the table. You don't get it. He's dangerous. I didn't mean for it to happen. He knows things about me, about us, and I couldn't just walk away from him. My skin went cold. I'd expected a confession, maybe an argument, but this was something else entirely. I pressed her, demanding answers, but all she gave me were fragments. He's not who he pretends to be. He said if I told anyone, there'd be consequences. Harris, I'm not safe. You're not safe either. That's when I realized her phone was gone. I asked where it was, and she froze like I'd just caught her in a lie. I lost it at the party, she whispered, but the way her eyes darted away told me she wasn't sure if she'd lost it, or if he had taken it. I didn't know what to think anymore. Was this all a cover-up for cheating? Or had I stumbled into something far darker than a broken marriage? My gut was screaming that she wasn't telling me the whole story, but for the first time, I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Later that evening, I caught her pacing the living room, whispering to herself like she was rehearsing something. When I asked what she was doing, she just said, "You'll see soon. You'll understand." I swear at that moment, I felt like I was living with a stranger. By the time night fell, my mind was spiraling so fast I couldn't even sit still. I kept replaying Willa's words. He's dangerous. You're not safe. It didn't make sense. None of it did. This wasn't the kind of thing you say to your husband after being caught with another man. This was something else, something that smelled like fear and secrets buried so deep that even saying them out loud would bring trouble. I tried to talk to her again, but every time I asked a direct question, she either broke down crying or deflected with, "You wouldn't understand." That line cut deeper than she knew, because it made me feel like an outsider in my own life. I wanted to shake her, to demand that she tell me everything, but I held back. Instead, I started looking for answers on my own. The first thing I did was check her bag. It wasn't snooping, not really. It was survival. That's what I told myself as I quietly opened her purse when she went to take a shower. Inside, I found a receipt from a liquor store near the party, a crumpled napkin with a number I didn't recognize, and a tiny slip of paper with nothing but the word "watch" written in all caps. My hands shook as I stared at that word. Was it a warning, a name, or something much worse? When she came out of the shower, she looked pale and distant, like her mind was somewhere I couldn't reach. I asked her about the napkin, and her face drained of color. "Harris, where did you find that?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "You weren't supposed to see that." That's when she broke down again, but this time, it wasn't just crying. It was like she'd snapped. She started rambling about someone following her, someone who had been watching us for weeks. I thought she was losing her mind. Maybe I was losing mine too. But just when I started to dismiss it as paranoia, the doorbell rang. At 11:47 p.m., we both froze. Willa's hands started shaking so badly that I had to stop her from knocking over the lamp. I went to the door, heart pounding like a drum in my chest. But when I looked through the peephole, there was no one there. Just a small package on the mat, wrapped in brown paper. No address, no name, nothing. I didn't open it right away. We just stared at it, like two idiots waiting for it to explode. Willa finally whispered, "Don't touch it, please, Harris, not yet." That terrified me more than anything she'd said so far. What the hell was in that box? And why did she seem to know who it was from? That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed on the couch, watching that package like it was alive. Every shadow in the room felt heavier. Every creak of the house made my skin crawl. And all the while, Willa just sat by the window, hugging her knees, staring into the dark as if she was waiting for someone to appear. I woke up on the couch with my neck stiff and my head pounding. At some point, exhaustion had won, and I dozed off. The package was still there, sitting in the middle of the coffee table, like a sleeping animal I didn't dare poke. Willa was gone. For a second, my chest tightened in panic, but then I heard the faint sound of the shower running upstairs. She hadn't left, not yet. I don't know what made me do it, but I decided I couldn't wait for her permission. Whatever was inside that box, it felt like it was already tearing our lives apart just by being here. I carefully untied the rough string and peeled away the paper. Inside was an old VHS tape. No label, no markings, just black plastic with a red smudge on one corner, like someone had pressed a finger against it with wet paint. Or blood. I felt my hands trembling, a cold sweat running down my back. Who even uses VHS tapes anymore? Willa came down the stairs just as I was holding it, and the moment she saw it, she froze. Her face went pale in an instant, and I swear I could see every muscle in her body tense. "Harris," she said, her voice sharp and low, "you shouldn't have touched that." I asked her what it was, and she shook her head like a child refusing to answer a teacher's question. "We don't watch it, we burn it. That's the only way we stay safe." That was the breaking point for me. I couldn't handle the cryptic warnings anymore. "What the hell is going on, Willa? Who is that guy? Why is some stranger sending you this stuff?" My voice cracked, not from anger, but from the kind of desperation that makes you feel like you're standing on the edge of a cliff and someone's pushing you forward. She sat down across from me, hands trembling as she tried to speak. "You saw me with him?" she started, her eyes wet with tears. "But what you didn't see is what he said to me. He knows things about my past, things I never told you because I wanted to bury them. He's not just some guy I met. He's someone who—" She trailed off, choking on her words. "He's someone I ran from years ago. And now, he's found me." I wanted to ask more, but she grabbed my hand so tightly it almost hurt. "Promise me, Harris, don't watch that tape. It's how he starts. He sends these things. And if you give in, you'll never get rid of him." Her fear felt real, so real that for a moment I believed every word. But the curiosity was eating me alive. Later that night, when she finally fell asleep upstairs, I dug through the attic until I found an old VCR player. I couldn't help it. I had to know. I had to see. I connected it to the dusty TV in the basement, shoved the tape in, and pressed play. The screen flickered, and for a few seconds, it was just static. Then, I saw something that made my blood run cold. It was Willa, my wife. But not as I know her now. Her hair was shorter, her face younger, but unmistakably her. She was sitting in a dark room, staring at the camera, crying, and then she whispered, "If you're watching this, it's already too late." I couldn't tear my eyes away from the screen. Willa, my Willa, sat there, maybe 10 years younger, pale and broken, whispering words I couldn't quite make out at first. The room she was in looked like some abandoned basement, dimly lit with a single swinging bulb. Her voice trembled, like every syllable carried weight that could crush her. "If you found this, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. He said I could leave if I just did what he asked. But there's no leaving him. There's never leaving him." My entire body went cold. I sat there frozen, unable to breathe properly. Who the hell was she talking about? Who was this he that seemed to haunt her even back then? She looked into the camera with the kind of terror that isn't acted, the kind of fear that lives in your bones. And then the tape cut to black. I waited, heart pounding, expecting the static to return. Instead, a grainy figure appeared on the screen, a man's silhouette, tall and thin, walking toward the camera with slow, deliberate steps. No face, no words, just the sound of heavy breathing. Then, in a warped voice that made my skin crawl, he said, "You can't hide, Willa, not from me, not ever." The tape stopped. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the remote. I sat there for what felt like hours, the basement silent except for the sound of my own ragged breathing. When I finally climbed the stairs, my legs felt like they didn't belong to me. I didn't know whether to confront her or run from her. What had she done? What had she been running from all these years? And why the hell was this man back now? When I reached our bedroom, she was awake. She looked at me with these hollow eyes, like she already knew I'd broken my promise. "You watched it, didn't you?" she whispered. I couldn't even answer. She didn't wait for me to. "Then it's already started." I demanded to know what it was, but she just shook her head and told me something that felt like the ground shifting beneath me. "Harris, I wasn't always the person you think I am. I made a mistake years ago, one I can't erase. That man you saw at the party, the one on the tape, he's not just dangerous. He's the kind of person who ruins everything he touches. He warned me he'd find me again. And now he has." I tried to push her for details. What mistake? What man? But she broke down, sobbing into my chest, muttering fragments of a story I couldn't piece together. Something about money that wasn't hers, people she trusted who betrayed her, and a night that she never should have survived. The more she spoke, the more I realized this wasn't about cheating. This wasn't about some random fling. This was something darker, something that could swallow us both whole. That night, I barely slept. Every noise outside the house made me jump. I kept staring at the shadows creeping across the ceiling, wondering if someone was out there watching us. And maybe, deep down, I already knew the truth. Someone was. The next morning, I woke up to a strange silence. It wasn't peaceful. It was suffocating, like the house itself was holding its breath. Willa was sitting on the edge of the bed, staring out the window, her hands clasped so tightly I thought she'd snap her own fingers. When I asked what she was doing, she didn't even look at me. "He's been here," she said flatly, her voice low and eerily calm. "I can feel it." I wanted to tell her she was just paranoid, that maybe the events of last night had messed with her head. But then I saw the footprints. There, in the dew-covered grass just beyond the fence, were clear tracks, muddy, fresh, leading right up to the side of the house and back into the trees. My blood went ice cold. Whoever it was had been close. Close enough to see us through the windows. I felt this crawling sensation on the back of my neck, like we weren't alone. I stormed outside, scanning the tree line, calling out into the empty morning air like an idiot. No one answered, of course. Just silence, broken by the distant hum of a car somewhere on the main road. When I came back inside, Willa was already pacing, her face pale and frantic. "You don't understand what he's capable of," she said, her voice trembling. "He'll take everything from us if we don't act now. We have to leave." "Leave? Where?" I tried to get her to slow down, to explain who this man even was, but she wouldn't tell me everything. All I got were bits and pieces, fragments of a life I didn't know she had. Something about a night that ended with her running through the dark, a deal that went wrong, and a man who promised her that if she disappeared, he would come for her one day. I didn't believe all of it, not yet. It sounded too unreal, like something from a bad thriller movie. But then I found the note. It was slipped under our front door. No envelope, no signature, just a single line scrawled in messy black ink. "She belongs to me." My hands shook as I read it. I showed it to Willa, and the way she looked at it, like the words themselves had power, sent chills through me. I called the police. I wasn't going to play into this psycho's game. They sent 2 officers to take a statement, but I could tell from their faces that they didn't think much of our story. They said things like, "Probably just a prank," and "We'll keep an eye out," before leaving us alone in that suffocating house. That night, I decided I wasn't going to sit around waiting. I grabbed the baseball bat I keep in the garage and stationed myself by the window, watching the yard like a guard dog. Every shadow looked like it was moving. Every gust of wind through the trees made me tighten my grip. Willa didn't sleep either. She just sat on the couch with her knees pulled up to her chest, staring at the door like she expected it to burst open any second. Around 3 a.m., I saw him. Just for a moment. A figure standing near the tree line, motionless, watching the house. My heart slammed against my ribs, and I rushed to the window, but the moment I moved, he was gone. I don't even know if I saw him clearly, just a shape, a shadow, but it was enough to make me feel like we were already trapped. Willa whispered, "He's not going to stop. Not this time." And the terrifying part, I believed her. I didn't close my eyes once that night. Every muscle in my body was locked tight, my hand gripping the bat until my knuckles went white. By sunrise, I was exhausted, running on pure adrenaline and fear. But something inside me had shifted. I realized I couldn't keep waiting for this shadow from Willa's past to come closer. If I did, he'd destroy us both. I wasn't going to let that happen. Not anymore. When Willa came into the kitchen that morning, she looked different, pale, shaken, but with this quiet determination in her eyes. She sat down across from me and, for the first time, told me everything. There had been a man years ago, someone who controlled people with threats and fear. She had gotten involved with him through someone she trusted, but when she tried to leave, he swore that one day he would find her. That night at the party wasn't a coincidence. He had been watching her for weeks. The man I saw on the balcony wasn't flirting. He was cornering her, and she was terrified. Hearing all of this, I didn't feel anger anymore, just a deep protective fire. I told her that whatever this man wanted, we weren't running anymore. I'd spent the last few days feeling powerless, but now I was done being the quiet husband who just walks away. I made her a promise. We were going to end this together, and we were going to take our lives back. The breakthrough came that same afternoon when I set up our home's security cameras and went through the old footage. On the feed from 2 nights before, I saw him, clear as day, a tall, thin man standing by the trees, watching our house. My blood boiled, but instead of fear, I felt focused. We called the police again, this time armed with video evidence. They took us seriously. Hours later, while the police were still canvassing the neighborhood, we saw movement near the backyard. I gripped the bat, heart hammering, but this time, I didn't freeze. I stormed outside, shouting loud enough to shake the trees, and there he was. Just a shadowy figure at first, but when he saw me charging toward him, he bolted. It turned into a chase I'll never forget, through the yard, past the fence, and into the street. The officers caught up just in time to tackle him before he could slip away. It was over. Just like that, the nightmare had a face, and that face was going to prison. When they took him away, Willa collapsed into my arms, sobbing with relief. I held her tighter than I ever had before, realizing how close we'd come to losing everything. The days after felt almost surreal. The police assured us he'd be behind bars for a long time. We installed new locks, new security systems, and for the first time in weeks, we both slept through the night. But something else changed too. That fear, that darkness, it didn't break us. It made us stronger. Willa opened up about everything, every secret she'd been carrying, and I listened without judgment. I realized that loving someone isn't just about sharing the good parts. It's about standing with them in the darkest, ugliest moments and still choosing them. Last night, we sat on the porch, just the two of us, watching the sun set behind the trees. She took my hand, looked at me with those tired but warm eyes, and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me." I didn't need to say anything, because for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were exactly where we were meant to be, together, safe, and stronger than ever.